Hey, everybody. Welcome to Meddkit's Provider Spotlight, where we are interviewing the most amazing private practices from all over the United States. Every week, we have new people that come on that have totally different perspectives, outlooks, different specialties on what they do and how they do it. And this week, we have really two awesome special guests. It's always nice when we get to have multiple people. The more the merrier. It's always a party. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Jason Durnas and Dr. Sam Norgaard of Action Chiropractic and Sports Injury Center in Illinois. Welcome, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm super excited to interview you both, hear what's going on in your world, but always kind of like to start with the origin story. I think it's important and, just talking about, how this all started, what inspired you to open up this practice and help people?
Well, it was kind of like a weird kind of start. So I was pre-med in school and in undergrad. And when I graduated, I had some I was kind of burned out with the academia for a while. So I thought I'd go get a job. And with the job comes some more free time and some money. So things I've always wanted to do, like passion projects and things like that. So I was a huge pro wrestling fan as a kid. So I ended up going to pro wrestling school and doing that for 3 years.
Whoa.
So all on the Chicagoland area on Friday and Saturday nights, I'd be doing shows, making like 20 to 50 bucks a night, wearing spandex and jumping off top ropes. And then working my normal job Monday through Friday. And then one day I just tweaked my back and it wasn't too serious or anything like that. I just had a hard time like putting my socks and shoes on. It took like 2 minutes to get me like what normally takes everybody like 10, 15 seconds. So I talked to some of my buddies and they all told me to go see a guy on the North Shore, which was way out of the way, like 30 miles from where I was living. But he said he'll fix you up. So I ended up going to the guy down the street from me and then had the epiphany that like he had a private practice. He was able to help people. You had instant results. So you didn't have to like wait on like how long certain kind of modalities will take forever. Got to make his own hours, got to do his own thing, had a good work-life balance. And that's kind of what I was looking for in a career. And that's what kind of off put me on medical school because my parents were both MDs. So I saw their work life balance wasn't perfect. And then how managed care was kind of creeping over on medicine. So looked into chiropractic school and with basically that amount of foresight went to chiropractic school, became a chiropractor. My wife is from this area, so we chose Naperville as a good place to start. Really didn't know anybody here. So basically from ground zero, had nothing and built Action Chiropractic to what it is now 12 years later.
That's fat. What a very interesting story. Yeah, not at all. This is why I love asking the origin story because it's amazing what people, have started with and why they got here and how they got here, and maybe not at all what they thought they were going to do, but thus here they are. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, so probably similar to a lot of providers in this field. I was on the receiving end of care first. So I was
Mhm.
in athletics in high school and college, and that was my first exposure to chiropractic care. So interestingly enough, I was at a workout at a sports performance facility, and this guy comes over and is like, "Hey, I'm the chiropractor down the hall. If you need anything, come check us out." As it would turn out, that guy is this guy. So that's how Jason and I met probably 10, 12 years ago. So it was a really cool start, and I liked how he practiced. Here's what do you do? How can I help you do it better? Type of deal. So went to college, got my degree, and gave Jason a call. I was like, hey, this is where I'm at. Wondering if we can join the team here. So I joined up with the team here 3 years ago.
Nice. That's so
Mhm.
cool. Jason, when you're waving, I'm like, oh, you're giving that guy, like, you must know him too. You're giving him a shout out, and it is you. It is indeed you. That's awesome. It's great, great stories that you both have. And at your practice, what do you find is kind of like the most common areas that you treat, or what do you find people are really struggling with these days? What do you think is the most common thing?
Well, for like what we're trying to fix here or address is primarily overuse injuries. So
Hmm.
we see a lot of the 9 to 5 people who are working from home now on their laptops in bad posture with like neck and shoulder issues, and then they go out and they play, softball or go out whatever rec league sport they're trying to do to keep with
Yeah.
their friends. So we're seeing a lot of just basically like sit too much, tight hip flexors, tight quads, tight back, the chronic back pain from that. And then trying to do like the weekend warrior stuff is really amped up since the pandemic has happened. Yeah.
Yeah, as chiropractors, a lot of it is like, hey, neck pain, back pain. But then I see it every day. It evolves to, hey, my back feels a lot better. What do you do for shoulders? What do you do for knees? What do you do for ankles? So for a lot of people, it starts with that and then expands to, again, what do you do? What hurts? Well, how can we help you do that better?
Yeah, I'm sure in this day and age, with everyone, I think COVID changed a lot for a lot of folks. I mean, people were still doing remote maybe, before COVID, but obviously there's a ton more in the workforce that are working from home that are just hunched over their laptops. We're all hunched over our phones, regardless sometimes. And so, yeah, I can imagine that's a large piece of the puzzle of what you're seeing right now. That makes a ton of sense. How would you define your approach? How is your approach different? You talked a little bit about that as, when you started to get injured and you went to this guy down the street and you didn't take too long. You got in, you got out, you saw results. How are you guys different?
So all our appointments are booked out. Like the new patients are 40 minutes, established patients are 20 minutes. We start from scratch every visit. We see what are you doing, what worked last time, what didn't work last time, where does it hurt, how does it hurt, how do you move? And we do a lot of soft tissue work. So most of the visits are stretching. We do active release technique. We do dry needling. We do
Okay.
cupping. We do grass and scraping stuff. There's a physical therapist down the hall from us. We refer that for corrective exercises. So we have a nice network of people to help our patients get better. So it's not necessarily a full-on chiropractic adjustment where you're in and out in 20 seconds with the doctor and then doing some other passive modalities. We are all hands-on and we are very goal-focused and goal-motivated. So if your goal is to run a half marathon pain-free, we will do everything in our power to make sure your feet, knees, hips, back, shoulders, neck can handle all that.
Yeah, and like you said, it's results based. So again, there are some conditions that do merit, come twice a week for 4 weeks. A lot of people, that's not the situation. But like you said at the beginning of the question, get in, get a result, get out, go do what you want to do.
That's awesome. I love how you're kind of like graduation focused. Like we
Mhm.
want to see your problem, but we want to see it improve, get better over time. That's what we're here for. And want to see you get a good result. And I think that's a common issue for the active people. There's people that shut them down and say, yeah, there might be a time where it's like, yeah, you really shouldn't be doing this anymore, right? But if you really are headstrong and you're kind of going to do it regardless. It's great that you're there supporting those folks as well. What's that like? When you have to tell a patient something like that, maybe they shouldn't be doing it, or kind of how you said, we're going to help you get there. What does that kind of look like?
You have to be open, excuse me, open and honest with them, like saying like you're overtraining, you're doing this too much, or you need to tweak this, or you're like if this is what you gotta explain, like if this is what you want, you have to do it a certain way. I've had a patient who his goal was to run at least 5 miles every day for a year. And then when he was starting to get back pain and stuff like that, I was like, it's a great goal, but do you have, maybe we can modify that 5 miles like 2 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon? Or, can we tweak it so you're doing 7 on one day and 3 on the other? Because again, you're overtraining. And then his big thing was in July of that year, there was a 24-hour race. His goal was to run 24 hours without stopping or get 100 miles in one of the two. And I went and actually went there to cheer him on, brought my table to stretch him out if he needed anything. And I went there at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. 9 a.m. he was having a great time. 9 p.m. he was dying, like Walking Dead. Like it took him, I could have ran a mile faster than he could. And that's saying something. So it's all open, honest communication. Some people need to be motivated to do a little bit more. Some people
Yeah.
need to be told remember you're not, for certain things like running, like if you're not getting paid to do this, you're not qualifying for Boston. Let's figure out a safe, smart way of doing it so we can get our goals by the targeted time.
That's really
Right.
sweet.
Communicate a plan with a goal in mind at the end. If you want to be ready to go for game day or race day, start at that in mind, work your way to that.
That's super smart. You know, a lot of things that you said in there, you know, I wouldn't think anyone would have suggested. It's just purely creative. Like, hey, if you're wanting to run 5 miles every day, I love what you said. You know, maybe try 3, then try 7. You know, don't keep doing like same thing every time. You know, I think that's super cool. And still being on par with that person's goals. Really awesome stories. So a question that I love to ask pretty much almost every time because everyone has a different answer. I've been doing this for 4 years and I feel like everyone has a different perspective. And so within the day of age of Google and the land of the internet, it is a great and powerful tool, but boy, is it misused and boys, there are a lot of misinformation. Dr. Google versus the real doctors, right? And so what is difficult about that? And, you know, is there something that you could tell us that you get all the time that is a common misconception about, you know, what you do?
The internet in the last couple of years has actually both like again like there are a lot of people like going crazy on like WebMD and like oh my God is this like do I have MS or ALS or that stuff or
Yeah.
which again you have to kind of like I walk people through the diagnosis so like people come to me with shoulder pain all the time and I'm like okay I have a torn like they'll come to me it's like I tore my bicep and I'm like well if I can do a bicep curl with resistance and you can hold it with me pushing down and it doesn't hurt it's probably not torn. If I can do a rotator cuff test with Jake Challenge, I'm like, okay, well, the orthopedic test says this is this, so it's probably not that. But then now we kind of shown that you have some positive impingement signs, so maybe we're going to work with bicep impingement today or AC joint impingement versus a torn rotator cuff where you need surgery. And you're going to put yourself on the shelf for several months. But on the other hand, too, like the TikToks and the YouTubes of the popping cracking video has actually got people like coming out of their shell a lot because like oh I saw that on the internet and now I really want to get adjusted because that looks pretty cool. So at first I was kind of like oh don't watch those they're not great for you but now people are asking me to do stuff that I'm like that's not legit so but
Yeah.
it's been a double-edged sword so again you have to again be open with the people and then show them what the science says and what what your body's telling you because you know best. You just got to figure out how to read that.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how we've been using that stuff in our place. So
Yeah, and if they come in with a diagnosis, open communication, walk them through orthopedic test for the shoulder, like Jason said, and say, hey, here's why this orthopedic test would confirm or kind of refute what diagnosis that is. Here's what I think. Here's what we can confirm or deny. And then again, here's our plan moving forward from there.
For sure. You know, you mentioned something interesting about those TikTok videos. And something that maybe you can debunk for us today is, what do you see about those videos in particular that people come and ask you to do? What do you think is one of those popular questions? And you're like, absolutely not, you know?
there is a popular technique where the guy will wrap a towel around the neck and then do a really quick impulse forward.
Mm.
And I can tell him 10 reasons why that's not a good idea. And it's like, yeah, it makes a ton of noise, and everybody walks away like, the guy limped in and is now tap dancing out. You can't believe everything you see on the internet because that guy just made noise and popped things. It didn't do anything with a specific, function in mind and a specific way of fixing your address problems. Like he basically just hit a reset button. And it might be good and it might not be. And I'm not willing to take that chance and put my reputation on the line. So you can be part of the TikToking, ring dinging settle, group
Yeah.
of, get some thumbs up and likes and stuff like that.
Totally get it. Yeah. I figured I'd ask because, I do see those. I see it for a lot of different fields and, they're popular, but I can only imagine. Sometimes I look at them and I even say that doesn't look right. How about you, Sam? What do you think?
Yeah, that's the big one. And honestly, like Jason said, it's a double-edged sword because some people are like, oh, I saw this on the internet. We both practice a variety of techniques. And so they're like, oh, I would say, hey, before we adjust, I'll show you how I do things. If you're cool with that, we'll go ahead. If not, tell me, we'll try something different. So it really is, use it to your advantage. But again, there are some like, I don't do that. here's why, here's what we can do instead.
And we're all about patient comfort here too. So like a lot of times I'll ask them like, are you okay with getting popped, cracked, like all the stuff you see on TV? And if not, there are ways around it, and we'll make an attempt to do what is best for your care and what's best for your comfort. So there's some people I'm like, all right, like this is not working, let's do this. And some people can't actually manually get adjusted anyways for other things going on, like arthritis or herniated disc or like other anatomical issues and deformities. So you gotta be smart about it. You just can't treat everybody the same way.
Totally, 100%. I love it. I think that's great. And in terms of to kind of round everything out and everything that we talked about here today, is there some easy tips or some homework, some typical homework maybe that you'll give a client? There are things that we can do today from either a preventative measure or even just put ourselves in the right, direction for our health in general. Is there anything that you might suggest folks do?
Move. We're designed for movement. We're made for movement. You run into issues when you stop. I always tell people, generally speaking, if it moves in a circle, move it in a circle.
Yep.
And stretch. Yoga's a good thing. Don't be afraid of it. Working out's awesome too. Try that sometime.
Totally agree. Yoga is so underrated. I think people really got to get into that more than they are. So I think that's great, great pieces of advice, you guys. I so appreciate having you on here today. This was terrific. Before we leave off today, I'd love for you to tell us how folks can get in touch with you guys if they're watching and they're like, hey, I have a question. I want to ask Jason, I want to ask Sam, or just, learn more about your practice. Where can they go?
We are located in Naperville, Illinois, which is 30 miles west outside of Chicago. You can find us, our website is takeactionchiro.com. You can call or text the office at 630-699-9858. And if you go on our website, the handles for all our social medias and stuff are there. So like we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or now X. So we're there for you, Snapchat.
Wow.
However you want to get hold of us, we're available. So, yeah.
Cool. Thanks so
And my
much.
personal email is jason@takeactionchiro.com. So if you guys want to reach out.
Yep. And then I'm Sam at takeactionchiro.com.
So
Cool. You guys have been awesome. Wealth of knowledge, really awesome perspectives, and hope to have you guys again. This was fantastic.
yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.